How often should backlog refinement meetings be held? Well, there's no fixed rule here. Okay. As often as you need to is probably the most accurate and completely useless answer. My rule of thumb is put something in the diary, maybe once a week. Just put something in there so the whole team knows Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock we go into refinement for an hour. Okay. There we are. It's in the diary. It's a nice placeholder. That gives you as a team somewhere to point customers to and say, we might need to talk to you about that stuff. Okay. So get it in their diaries. Make them optional. They're not going to always be needed. And as we look ahead, we can start thinking, well, we need to talk to Dave about that problem, and we need to talk to Rohit about that problem, and whoever. Okay. So you've got something in your meeting. I like short meetings. Okay, so I wouldn't put in more than an hour, and I think an hour is a bit of a long meeting, but you're going to have some good conversations. Okay. So that's where I would start, and then accept the informal ad hoc nature of refinement. As developers become free, they're going to have questions. They're going to be thinking about what's the work that's coming up, and maybe then is a great time for them to go and have a chat to somebody, be it the product owner or the customer or the expert or whoever, to better understand the upcoming work. As long as it's not being done in isolation, it's not one single person going and doing it, I'm actually really good with it. I want to see teams out there talking to people, understanding the problem space, understanding who they're helping and how they can better help them. Right? That all comes together to make a better product that makes a better team that's able to serve their customers better. So I would start with a single meeting, but accept that that may morph over time as your team learns what works for it better. But also alongside it, there's going to be some ongoing work. Scrum used to say you could use up to about 10% of your time in this refinement activity. Okay? You're not going to spend 10% of a sprint in meetings. That's not the expectation. Okay? It's also those ad hoc conversations, the research, the asking and answering of questions, all of that stuff that has to happen for you to understand the work. That is all refinement. Okay? So put something in the diary. That makes life easy to get people together to talk about things. If you've got to get hold of somebody who is busy, you're in their diary, at least then you can have that discussion. But also be understanding that serendipity is a wonderful thing. There's occasionally just going to be that right time to talk about something. You're at the end of a meeting, it's ended a bit early. That person you've struggled to get hold of is sat there. Grab them, have that chat, bring it back to the team. Okay. So the teams that I see who are most successful at refinement have a mix of this. They'll have meetings and they'll have ad hoc. The meeting may be an hour and a half, a week, every 2 weeks, whatever they found works best for them in their organizations. Okay. One of my favorite teams to play around that played around with this idea actually ended up with 20 minutes every single day. They had people in the UK, they had them in the US, they had them in India, and they found that just after lunch in the UK worked really well for everybody. Right? Not a long meeting, really quite focused, 20 minutes, they were in, they dealt with 1, maybe 2 items on their backlog, and then they moved on. Okay? But they did that every day, so they were getting through quite a chunk of work. Around that, because of time zone differences and things, items would be highlighted in that refinement meeting that somebody would go and work on, and they'd work in whatever time zone they were in as appropriate, and that information was fed back in to the team later. Okay. But find what works for you. Don't think it just has to be a meeting. It can be many varied ways, but play around with it. If you are doing refinement today, great, I'm really happy to hear that, but don't do it because you've been doing it that way previously. Play around with it, add some ideas. Do you need that whole hour? Could you cut it down to half an hour and still achieve the same outcomes? Could you spin conversations off into smaller pieces and find better ways to work? And that's what this is all really about, is not only are we trying to build a better product, but we are constantly looking for better ways to build a better product. So don't fall into that rut of doing it because it works well enough. There might be a better way. Try some things out to improve your product backlog refinement. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, dropping it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.